Could you imagine sitting at Red Lobster and someone comes up to you and calls you a broke-ass bitch? 150 years ago, that was a possibility. A lot of seafood was looked down upon, such as lobsters, clams. If it came out the water, you was a broke-ass bitch. So today on Poor Choices, we are getting extra poor by making some shrimp pizza, tavern style, using a tortilla instead of pizza dough. If you've ever had pizza on a cruise ship or at a bar, it's pretty much the exact same thing, that little nice thin crust pizza. And this recipe is really simple and honestly goes very quickly. And it doesn't have to be shrimp, it could be pepperoni, it could be sausage. The sky is the limit. So the next time your date wants to go to an expensive seafood place, tell them no, that's poor people food.
Starting out, we need to make a quick garlic olive oil mix to be our sauce base. You can absolutely use a regular pizza sauce or an Alfredo sauce or a white sauce, but I want to do something different today. This recipe was inspired by one of my favorite appetizers at Red Lobster, which is the lobster pizza. Instead of lobsters though, we'll be going with shrimp since I had some already in the fridge, but you can swap in lobster meat for the shrimp and get an equally delicious result. This recipe is done in under 15 minutes and it's so damn good. It's like the perfect 2 a.m. drunk or high food, and you probably have a lot of this stuff already in your house. Replace the shrimp with, say, some pepperoni or sausage and put down some marinara as a sauce and top with cheese. Boom, you've got something better than any frozen pizza, and honestly, kind of better than most pizza delivery places. In a measuring cup, we'll start with half a cup of olive oil, 6 or so cloves of minced or grated garlic, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper. Give that a mix and set aside. We're also going to prep just a few vegetables for this recipe. I've got a couple of fresh Roma tomatoes here, and with it being summer, tomatoes are perfectly in season, which is part of the reason why I went with the olive oil sauce, so that I can use fresh diced up tomatoes on the pizza for that tomato taste. Give those a good dicing and do discard the seeds so you don't have a soupy, liquidy mess on your pizza that makes it soggy. I've also got some fresh basil leaves that I'm rolling up and then dicing finely with my knife. No real measurement amounts here, but if I had to say, this is maybe 2 Roma tomatoes and like 4 or 5 basil leaves, and then I think I use about 1/4 a pound of medium-sized shrimp, peeled and deveined with the tail off. Speaking of shrimp, so one thing we want to do is completely dry our shrimp. That's going to make sauteing them so much better. If you put wet shrimp in a pan, it's really just going to kind of steam and take longer to cook. We want to hit a nice hot pan to cook within 2 to 3 minutes. So if you find yourself sitting there cooking shrimp for close to 10 minutes, you're either using too wet of a shrimp or your heat is way too low. If you want an easy way to see if your pan is hot enough, just put your hand under some water and then flick it into the pan. If it beads up like this, then you know your pan is hot enough. So keeping in mind trying to avoid wet shrimp, I lay mine out on a paper towel and I dry them thoroughly. I'm using 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter here and then laying my shrimp down in it. I'll season the side up with some garlic salt, and let me emphasize garlic salt, not powder. Really easy to confuse the two, especially if you're not paying attention. No real measurement either, I'm just giving it a good dusting. I'm also adding some red pepper flakes and some dried parsley flakes to the mix as well. After about a minute or so, give the shrimp a flip, season the other side, and let it cook for another minute. You could season these beforehand too, but I'm just doing this in the pan as if I was high at 2 a.m. I'm trying to recreate the experience. Also, we're going to be putting this under a broiler later, so we do not want to overcook the shrimp because they're going to cook a little bit longer. Go until they turn from gray to slightly pinkish and begin curling up. Take them out of the heat, chop them up as fine as you want. I don't mind some chunks for a nice bite of seasoned shrimp, but you do what you want to do. I've already shredded my parmesan and mozzarella cheese. I encourage shredding it yourself because it melts so much better, but the bag stuff is just fine too if it's, you know, again, late and you're just trying to be like getting food in you and not worried about shredding cheese. You can take the parmesan easier to the grater if it's been out at room temperature for a while, and as for the mozzarella, you can pop that into the freezer for a little bit to firm up, and then it becomes even easier to shred. Also, feel free to add other cheeses to the mix. I kept it simple with parmesan and mozzarella, but please feel free to go crazy. For our pizza, instead of using say like a store-bought pizza dough or making your own, I'm going to use a tortilla. That's right, the same thing you wrap your burritos in makes an amazing thin crust pizza. Surprisingly, it's what a lot of bars and cruise ships do. I want my tortilla to fit in my cast iron, which is about 10 inches, so if you find yourself like me with a tortilla too big, just place it in a cast iron and use a pizza cutter to go around the edges, and you'll cut a perfectly sized tortilla for your pan. Now that we've got everything together, turn your broiler on to high. That's going to help us melt the cheese and give it a nice browning. Get your cast iron heated up over a medium-high heat and place down a little olive oil. Use a paper towel to wipe the olive oil around the pan and the sides. This is going to create a nice thin layer of olive oil to keep our pizza from sticking. Then place your tortilla down and turn the heat down immediately to medium. If you leave it high the entire time, it's definitely going to burn, but we just want to start with a high heat and then turn it down so the tortilla can kind of start getting a good crispiness to it, but without overcooking. From here, we begin building our pizza. Put down the garlic olive oil mix, Just a good brushing. I also like this mix because it's not too heavy. This is a really thin crust pizza, so we don't want to weigh it down too much with ingredients. Next up is our cheese blend, then our shrimp and tomato and basil, a little more cheese on top and some red pepper flakes, and make sure you're putting your ingredients all the way to the edge, even up against the side of the pan. That extra crispy cheese in the edges is amazing. Now don't take your sweet time making this pizza. You do kind of want to move quickly because you don't want to overcook that tortilla. Once you've built your pizza fully, you can pop it off the heat and into the oven under the broiler for no more than 3 minutes. That should be enough time for the cheese to melt and brown and the tortilla to crisp up a little bit more. Don't walk away because broilers work fast and you don't want burnt cheese or a burnt bottom of your tortilla. After 3 minutes, take it out, get it out of the cast iron immediately so it doesn't keep cooking, and then slice it up and enjoy. That damn easy. And I'm not kidding when I say this took me the first time I made it about like 15 minutes, and that includes cooking the shrimp. As for pour choices go, I mean, if you're eating pizza, wine always goes great with it, but honestly, drink whatever you want, but a good white wine or a red wine is gonna go amazing with this. But also just think about it, if it's like 2 a.m. When I was making this, then maybe you don't need anything else. But if you still got some party in you, wine is the way to go. Head to Support Choices Kitchen. We have a Patreon. It's linked down in the description. $1 a month is all we ask for. It helps pay for these recipes and these here inflated times. And let me know how these pizzas come out. I can definitely do a bunch more. Like, it's a really simple process. You can do literally anything you want, whether it's pepperoni, sausage, mushroom. You can even do pizza margarita and stuff like that. But if you want some more pizza ideas, some cool ones, I can definitely make some more in the future. Just let me know. Otherwise, have a good weekend, and I'll see you back here next week.